everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my instructional designer series. If you're curious about what instructional designers really do, this video is for you. So first, I kind of just wanted to talk about the role, what we do as instructional designers. I know you probably heard the term thrown around here and there. Let's take this really big, complex topic and break it down. An instructional designer takes a complex topic and breaks it down into digestible learning content, creates a really good learning experience for the audience that you're creating it for. For example, at one of my previous roles, we were building an academy for tech users. So bridging the gap between all of these tech people in the company that I worked for. So that entailed of e-learning courses, job aid, infographics, instructor-led courses. Essentially, it's just gathering all this information and creating an overall good learning experience for your learner. I would say at the core, it's about making learning makes sense for people. Think of the ways that you grew up, the way that you like to learn, and it's the job of the instructional designer to present you with all of these different resources, keeping the learner in mind. Just like some people might enjoy this type of YouTube video, long form content, but some people rather YouTube shorts or TikToks or Reels because they prefer short form content. So it's the instructional designer's role to provide you with all of these options, keeping the end user in mind. Talk about some of the core tasks and responsibilities you might come across. So let's say your manager comes to you and is like, the HR team is working on SMART goals content and they need our team to come up with a learning experience for their team. At this point in time, it also depends on your organization and how they work, but I'm speaking of one of my previous roles. So let's say they could already have some sort of source content, or it could be something that you're creating from scratch, brand new. For this specific example, the team already had source content. So they come to you and your manager's like, yeah, this team wants SMART goals content. They want a whole package, e-learning, an infographic, a job aid, and something to put in our internal system, like our internal wiki. So then it's your job to meet with the stakeholders. So this is your SME, your subject matter expert. So the person that you're going to be able to talk to during this entire process, who's going to give you the truth for what you're creating. So for example, and we're using this SMART goals example, they have source content, but they really want to spruce it up. They want to present it in a fun way. And this could sometimes be the company's branding. So they have gone through a shift in branding over the past few years. So they need something that's more up to date, more lively. That's the part that's fun for me. At one of my previous jobs, everyone used to say, Joselle really likes making things pretty. Oh, let me pass this over to Joselle because she likes making things pretty. I love that. That's probably the most fun part of instructional design for me. So once you've met with your stakeholders, it's a good idea to come up with some sort of a cadence to meet with them. So you've talked about here's the outcomes they want, and then you discuss, okay, let's meet weekly on a Thursday, 1 p.m. But throughout this process, we're gonna be sharing iteratively. That was also a concept that was very difficult for me because I was so used to creating something and then sending it over when I'm all done. But iterative design helps you to share along the way, get feedback along the way. It was uncomfortable for me at first, but honestly, it's the best way, because you don't want to get to the end of a project and they're like, oh, this is not what I had in mind at all. This way, you set up the cadence, you share even before you meet, and so you're getting feedback along the way. When I first started, someone said to me that a lot of instructional designers take the projects to heart, and you cannot do that. Know that, like, yes, be proud of your work, but you're literally doing it for another team. It's what they want, the outcomes they want. Don't take anything to heart. That's a big lesson. Depending on what the stakeholders are looking for. In this instance, they wanted an e-learning. So this is where we would use Articulate Rise or Storyline. All the companies that I've worked for, this is the tools that we've used. Usually people would use Rise because they want a pretty quick turnaround. Rise has so much better features these days than they did in the past. You would create an e-learning based on that. Depending on your company's budget, you have to think about the amount of the learner will need to take this course, because all those things go into budgeting, etc., etc. They might also want a job aid to go along with this, and it depends on what your stakeholder is looking for. In the specific project that I'm talking about, they did request a job aid as well. So I created one of those, and I always like to send an infographic, because for me, I can take an e-learning. Yes, I can flip through a job aid, but if I get an infographic that has the highlighted points on there, I personally like that. So I always like to include that in my package. Coming up with a project plan is also a good idea. Again, this differs from job to job that I've been at. It depends on how your managers manage, how the stakeholders and the SMEs, the relationship that you have, and how committed to learning and development is your organization. But a project plan helps keep everyone honest, on time, and you could see your project move forward. Been at a job where they use Jira, I've been at a job where they use Excel, Microsoft Teams. It literally just depends. But what's important is that everyone has visibility to that project plan. So you could see, okay, the first version of the e-learning is due January 1st. I need feedback by January 5th, and so forth and so forth. It helps keep everyone honest, and it helps the project along. I wanted to talk about a little behind the scenes, like what do I spend my time doing each week? And again, this depends from company to company, but last year, the company that I currently work for, they were moving forward with this big sales initiative. And this was new for me. We're not even gonna get into that, but sales just was not my forte. But once I met with the SMEs, I knew what they were looking for, and also working alongside my teammates, we knew what the outcomes were. So my weeks were spent we were basically creating an e-learning. But another thing with that is within the e-learning, sometimes there's infographics that you need to create, other graphics and such. So I would spend my time creating these, and throughout the week, ensuring that I'm sending it over to the SMEs for feedback as we go, because we had a lot of tight deadlines to make. Throughout the whole process, we did this, we got feedback, and sometimes they get feedback from the business. They thought they had 45 minutes for a course, but that might change. So that means the SMEs come back to me and I have to chop some stuff off. This is what's most important, etc. I would also say a big piece of what I do is relationship building. That is so important. Like I've explained throughout this video, you meet with your SMEs often. So you have to learn personalities, be able to know how to talk to them essentially. So relationship building, very, very, very important. And sometimes you work with these teams for more than just weeks, it could be months. So Building a good relationship with your SME is extremely important. I hope I was able to explain this in the best way possible for anyone who's new, thinking about transitioning into instructional design. If you want to learn about how I got my first instructional design job with no tech experience, on the next video, we'll go through all the details, my journey, and how I got my first job. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.